The harsh buzz of my alarm cuts through Tuesday morning like any other. 6:30 a.m. Chicago's spring air filters through a half-open window, carrying the distant hum of early traffic and the promise of another unremarkable day. I silence the alarm and begin my routine. Shower, brush teeth, select a conservative gray suit for today's client presentation. My apartment isn't much, a one-bedroom in Wicker Park I can barely afford, but the morning light paints it in a forgiving glow. My phone buzzes on the nightstand. 3 texts from Mark. I ignore them. After 6 months, he should understand that taking a break wasn't a temporary measure. The coffee maker gurgles in the kitchen, while I review presentation notes at my small dining table. The quarterly projections look good, not exceptional, but our marketing team has weathered worse storms. My phone vibrates against the table, screen lighting up with a notification. Emergency alert. Satellite imagery shows new craters in Montana. Authorities investigating. No civilian action required at this time. I pause, coffee mug halfway to my lips. Montana? That's at least 1,000 miles away. Probably meteorites. I remember reading about the Chelyabinsk meteor in Russia years ago. Bright flash, shockwave, windows broken. But no impact reports here? Curious. I open Twitter. Trending topics already flooded with hashtag Montana craters and hashtag impact event. The usual mix of blurry photos, speculation, and premature panic. One user claims it's clearly the beginning of an alien invasion, complete with a grainy image that could be anything. I roll my eyes and close the app. My morning commute feels subtly different. The train is quieter than usual. More people staring at phones, fewer conversations. I catch fragments of whispered discussions. Said there were 3 craters. No radiation detected, according to. My cousin in Billings says. A woman across from me meets my gaze, then quickly looks away. Something in her eyes, concern? Fear? I check my own phone. The news sites have minimal information. Satellite imagery confirms 3 impact-like formations near Miles City, Montana. No eyewitness reports of impacts. No seismic activity recorded. Government agencies investigating. Nothing to worry about. Especially not with the Hanover presentation in 2 hours. The office buzzes with unusual energy when I arrive. Marketing departments aren't typically concerned with geological phenomena, but Emma intercepts me before I can reach my desk. Did you see the alert? Her eyes are wide behind tortoiseshell glasses. They're saying the craters appeared overnight, but nobody saw or heard anything. Probably just delayed reporting, I reply, setting down my laptop bag. Rural Montana isn't exactly densely populated, but satellite imagery from yesterday doesn't show them, she persists. And they're perfectly circular. 3 perfect circles. I shrug. Natural formations can be surprisingly geometric. Remember the Giant's Causeway? Perfect hexagons, completely natural. Emma doesn't look convinced, but our conversation is interrupted by Daniel calling us into the conference room for pre-presentation preparations. For the next 3 hours, emergency alerts and mysterious craters fade into the background as we focus on conversion rates and market segmentation strategies. The presentation goes well. The clients seem pleased, though they'll circle back next week with feedback. Corporate speak for, "We'll make you wait while we explore cheaper options." As we file out of the conference room, I notice several people checking their phones with furrowed brows. What now? I ask Daniel, who's scrolling intently. NASA's made a statement, he says without looking up. They're saying it wasn't meteorites. No atmospheric entry detected. Something cold settles in my stomach. What does that mean? They don't know. He finally meets my eyes. But they're sending a team to investigate. Lunch passes with more crater talk. Theories ranging from sinkholes to underground explosions to military testing. I maintain my skepticism, eating my sandwich while colleagues spiral into increasingly unlikely scenarios. My brother works for USGS, says Trevor from accounting, who never joins our lunch group but has made an exception today. He says they've never seen formation patterns like this. Perfect circles, equidistant from each other, no displaced Earth. So what are they? Emma asks. Trevor lowers his voice dramatically. They don't know. That's what's freaking everyone out. I roll my eyes. The mystery will have mundane solution. It always does. The afternoon drags. I notice more empty desks than usual. People leaving early, calling in family emergencies. My own parents call from their farm in southern Illinois. Mom's voice carries a hint of worry I've rarely heard. Just checking that you're okay, sweetheart, she says, too casually. I'm fine, Mom. The craters are in Montana, not Chicago. I know. Just with everything on the news. She pauses. Your father thinks it's just some natural phenomenon they'll explain soon. Dad's right, I say with more confidence than I feel. Probably some geological process we don't fully understand yet. After work, I stop at the grocery store. The atmosphere is tense, more shoppers than usual for a Tuesday evening, carts piled higher. The woman ahead of me in line has water bottles, canned goods, batteries. I stick to my original list: chicken, vegetables, pasta. I'm not panicking over unexplained holes in the ground 1,000 miles away. At home, I flip on the TV while preparing dinner. Every channel features experts speculating about the craters. A geologist points to satellite images, 3 perfect circles arranged in a triangle formation, each about 50 meters wide. We can rule out meteorite impacts, she explains. There's no impact debris, no evidence of heat signatures that would accompany objects entering our atmosphere. What about sinkholes, the anchor asks. Sinkholes don't form in perfect circles, especially not 3 identical ones in a geometric arrangement. And they typically show some warning signs before collapse. I lower the heat on my stir-fry and lean against the counter, suddenly more interested. So what's your theory, Dr. Hansen? The geologist hesitates. At this point, we don't have enough data to form a conclusive theory. Teams are on site collecting samples and conducting surveys. The anchor pushes. But these appeared overnight, correct? That's unprecedented? Yes, she admits. The satellite pass at 9 p.m. Mountain Time showed nothing unusual. By the 5 a.m. pass, the craters were there. What's particularly unusual is the lack of any reported disturbance. No sounds, no tremors, nothing. My phone buzzes with another emergency alert. Update: investigation of Montana crater sites ongoing. No immediate public safety concern. Further information will be provided as available. I switch off the TV, suddenly tired of speculation. Whatever happened in Montana, it doesn't affect my life here. The presentation went well. The quarterly numbers look solid. Tomorrow will be another normal day. As I prepare for bed, a final check of my phone shows social media still ablaze with theories. I scroll past most, but one tweet catches my attention. Montana craters identical to formations found in Siberia in 1908. Those were just the beginning. Hashtag Tunguska event, hashtag history repeats. I dismiss it and set my alarm for 6:30 a.m. Whatever mysteries the world holds can wait until after coffee. But as I drift towards sleep, I can't shake the image of 3 perfect circles in the Montana earth, appearing silently in the night, waiting to be understood. Thursday morning, 2 days since the Montana craters first appeared. 2 days of escalating theories and diminishing answers. I step out of my apartment building and pause. 3 military transport vehicles rumble past, heading downtown. Not National Guard, regular army. Their presence feels jarring against Chicago's morning commute. My phone buzzes. Emergency alert. Additional craters identified in Wyoming and Idaho. Stay informed through official channels. No civilian action required at this time. I stare at the screen longer than necessary. Wyoming and Idaho. Expanding outward. A chill runs through me despite the mild spring air. The train platform is crowded but eerily quiet. Normally, morning commuters maintain the polite fiction of privacy through headphones and averted gazes. Today, people stand in clusters, showing each other their phones, whispering. When the train arrives, I find a seat and open Twitter. The hashtag crater expansion dominates my feed. Satellite images show new formations, identical to the Montana ones. Perfect circles approximately 50 meters in diameter. Wyoming's cluster forms a triangle similar to Montana's. Idaho's configuration is different, 5 craters in a pentagonal arrangement. A man beside me leans over, uninvited. Government's lying, he says, breath smelling of coffee and cigarettes. Friend of mine works air traffic control in Denver. Says they detected something last night, but it didn't register on radar. Just visual confirmation from pilots. I nod non-committally and angle my body away, but he continues. They're saying it's ground phenomena for a reason. They don't want panic when the truth is, whatever made those holes came from above. I'm relieved when he exits at the next station. The office is half empty. Daniel explains that we're operating with essential personnel only, his term, not company policy. People are spooked, he admits. Taking personal days, working remotely. Management isn't fighting it. Emma hasn't arrived. Neither has Trevor from accounting, who'd been so eager to share his brother's USGS insights. Trevor called in sick, Daniel tells me when I ask. Emma texted that she's heading to her parents' place in Michigan, just until things settle down. Things? I echo. It's just some geological anomalies. Daniel gives me a look I can't quite interpret. Maybe. FEMA's setting up command centers in 3 states now. Military's mobilizing. Still think it's just interesting geology. I spend the morning distracted, browser tabs alternating between work spreadsheets and news sites. The official statements remain measured. Investigations ongoing, no immediate threat identified. Remain calm but vigilant. Between the lines, we don't know what's happening. Social media tells a different story. Unverified videos of military convoys heading west. Reports of communication outages in small towns near crater sites. Rumors of unusual animal behavior. Birds flying in disoriented patterns. Deer and elk migrating out of season. At lunch, I call my parents. Everything's fine here, Dad says, but his voice carries an edge I recognize from childhood tornadoes and flood warnings. TV's been cutting out though, and cell service is spotty. Have you seen anything unusual? I ask carefully. A pause. Nothing to worry about. Dad. He sighs. Some of the livestock's been acting strange. Chickens won't leave the coop. Anderson's dairy cows broke through 3 fences yesterday, all running the same direction. East, away from the Mississippi. Away from the crater states. My stomach tightens. Maybe it's just. Weather changes, barometric pressure, sure, he interrupts. That's what the county extension office said when we called. But Joe Winters has been farming 50 years and says he's never seen anything like it. After the call, I check flight prices to Illinois, just in case. The numbers have tripled since yesterday. By mid-afternoon, conflicts emerge between news sources. CNN reports that scientists have detected unusual seismic activity beneath the crater sites, continuous, rhythmic vibrations unlike typical earthquake patterns. Fox News claims anonymous Pentagon sources confirm the craters are results of non-terrestrial technology. The White House issues a statement calling for calm and denouncing irresponsible speculation. A new notification lights up my phone. Alert! Cellular networks experiencing disruptions in affected states. Emergency services remain operational. I open the attached map. The affected states now include Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and parts of the Dakotas, Utah, and Colorado. A roughly circular region centered on the original Montana craters. The office empties gradually throughout the day. By 4, only Daniel and I remain from our department. He stops by my desk, jacket already on. You should consider getting out of the city, he says quietly. It's probably nothing, I reply automatically, but the words feel hollow. Maybe. He sets a business card on my desk. My brother-in-law works for FEMA. Call him if. He doesn't finish the thought. Just call if you need to. I work late, less from dedication than reluctance to return to an empty apartment and endless news cycles. When I finally leave, the streets feel wrong. Military checkpoints have appeared at major intersections. Officers in hazmat suits collect samples from storm drains. A crowd has gathered around an electronics store window, watching multiple TV screens display news coverage. I join them. Latest satellite imagery suggests the craters may be expanding, a reporter says gravely. What initially appeared to be static formations are showing subtle changes in dimension and depth. The feed cuts to a Pentagon briefing. A stern general gestures to maps. We're implementing precautionary cordons around affected areas. This is not an evacuation. I repeat, this is not an evacuation. These measures allow our scientific teams to conduct their investigations without interference. A reporter shouts, "General, is it true that communication with some towns near the original crater sites has been lost?" The general's face hardens. We're experiencing expected infrastructure challenges due to increased network traffic and some equipment disruption. All communities remain accessible by emergency services. The crowd murmurs. A woman beside me whispers, "They're lying." My cousin in Sheridan says the roads out of town were closed yesterday. Military turning people back. On my walk home, I pass a corner store with a line stretching around the block. People emerge with cases of water, canned goods, batteries. The scene triggers something primal, a survival instinct I've never needed in my urban life. I join the line. By the time I reach my apartment, arms straining from grocery bags, another alert lights up my phone. Emergency alert. Temporary no-fly zones established over crater locations. Internet service disruptions possible. Updates to follow. I set down the bags and turn on the TV, flipping channels until I find a live report. A field reporter stands at what appears to be a military checkpoint, mountains visible in the background. Being told this is purely precautionary, but as you can see, no civilians are being allowed within 30 miles of the Wyoming crater sites. Officials won't confirm what they're finding, but sources tell us the scientific teams are working in full containment gear. The feed suddenly cuts to the studio anchor, who looks momentarily confused before recovering. We appear to be experiencing some technical difficulties with our remote feed. We'll return to Jessica when possible. I open my laptop to search for more information, but my Wi-Fi has slowed to a crawl. Pages time out. Videos buffer endlessly. Finally, a research paper loads, something about the Tunguska event mentioned in that tweet. I read with growing unease about the 1908 Siberian explosion, theories of asteroid impacts or cometary fragments. The paper mentions secondary phenomena, observed in the weeks following, magnetic anomalies, unexplained lights, unusual patterns in plant growth. A final paragraph catches my attention. Several reports from the period, largely dismissed by the scientific community, describe perfectly circular depressions appearing near the primary impact site. Local shamanic traditions warned against approaching these formations, claiming they were doorways or eyes through which something was watching. Outside my window, sirens wail in the distance. More than usual for a Thursday night. I close the curtains, double-check my door lock, and try to ignore the growing certainty that whatever is happening out west, it isn't stopping there. And it isn't natural. 1 week since the first alert. The world has changed in increments so gradual, I almost convinced myself I was overreacting. Almost. My morning routine has evolved. Check phone for alerts. Check windows. Check news. Check food supplies. Then coffee. Always coffee. The ritual of normalcy in an increasingly abnormal existence. Today's alert arrives with breakfast. Emergency alert. Remain indoors between sunset and sunrise. Report unusual activity to local authorities. Compliance is mandatory. No explanation. No context. Just a directive that would have been unthinkable 8 days ago. The trains are still running, though half empty now. Chicago feels hollowed out, those with means or family elsewhere having already fled. I continue going to work, less from dedication than a desperate need for structure. The office building's lobby now hosts a military checkpoint. 2 soldiers checking IDs. A man in a lab coat examining something that looks disturbingly like a Geiger counter. Just precautionary, he says, noticing my stare. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. 8 people remain in our department of 23. Daniel looks like he hasn't slept in days. Corporate wants contingency plans, he tells me, voice low despite the empty office. How to maintain operations if headquarters needs to relocate. Relocate where? He shrugs. East Coast, they're saying. Or Puerto Rico. The morning passes in a fog of spreadsheets and evacuation protocols. At 11, all our computers simultaneously display a new alert. Emergency broadcast. Mandatory viewing of federal address at 12 p.m. Eastern. Non-compliance subject to penalties under the Emergency Powers Act. We gather in the conference room, clustering around the large screen. The presidential seal appears, then the Oval Office. The president looks composed but grim. My fellow Americans, I'm speaking to you today about the ongoing situation in our western states. As you know, unusual geological formations have appeared across several states. I want to assure you that every resource of our government is being deployed to understand and address this phenomenon. Standard reassurances follow, but I focus on the background. Staff moving with unusual urgency. Papers being handed off camera. The vice president conspicuously absent. Out of an abundance of caution, we are implementing temporary restrictions in affected areas. These include limited curfews, communication management protocols, and transportation corridor designations. Bureaucratic language for lockdowns, censorship, and evacuation routes. We ask for your patience and cooperation as we work to ensure public safety. God bless America, and God bless you all. The feed cuts to a FEMA official explaining the protocols in more detail. No one in our room speaks. The silence feels leaden. After work, I stop at a convenience store for batteries. The shelves are mostly bare, but I find a pack of AAs behind some overlooked canned vegetables. The cashier, an elderly man who usually chats about baseball, silently bags my purchase. As I turn to leave, he grabs my wrist. My son's in Wyoming, he says, eyes red-rimmed. National Guard. They've lost contact with his unit. 3 days now. His grip tightens. The official channels say communications are just down, but the forums say different. They say whole towns have gone quiet. No signals in or out. I don't know how to respond. I'm sure they're lying to us. He cuts me off. Whatever's happening, it's worse than they're saying. He releases my wrist. Be careful out there. Night falls as I walk home. The curfew alert repeats, buzzing phones simultaneously up and down the street. Most people hurry indoors. A few stand defiantly on porches, watching military vehicles patrol with mounting resentment. Something catches my eye across the street. Mrs. Chun from 3B walking toward her building. I raise my hand to wave, then freeze. Mrs. Chun is unlocking her door, keys in hand. But Mrs. Chun is also walking down the sidewalk toward the same door. I blink, certain I'm hallucinating. Both versions of my neighbor exist simultaneously, 20 feet apart. The walking Mrs. Chun reaches the steps. The key-turning Mrs. Chun opens her door. They don't acknowledge each other. Neither seems aware of the impossibility. The door closes behind both of them. I stand paralyzed, unable to process what I've witnessed. A passing patrol car slows, the officer eyeing me suspiciously. I hurry into my building, heart pounding. Inside my apartment, I pace, trying to rationalize. Stress. Fatigue. A trick of the light. Identical twins playing a prank? Each explanation falls apart under scrutiny. I check social media, looking for reports of similar incidents. Twitter's trending topics have been oddly sanitized for days, but Reddit's darker corners tell different stories. Users describing time slips, momentary duplications, family members doing impossible things. Most posts disappear within minutes, but new ones constantly emerge. Sleep comes fitfully, haunted by dreams of perfect circles in the earth, watching me. Morning brings no clarity. The trains have stopped running. No explanation, just service suspended signs. I walk the 3 miles to work, passing through 2 military checkpoints where soldiers swab my hands and scan my ID. What are you testing for? I ask at the second checkpoint. The soldier, barely old enough to shave, glances at his superior before answering. Trace elements, ma'am. Maintaining public health. What elements? His expression shudders. Move along, please. Only 4 of us make it to the office. Daniel doesn't. At noon, the building's power flickers, emergency generators humming to life. Through the window, I watch sections of the city grid darken. My phone rings, my mother's number. Relief floods through me. Their rural service has been intermittent all week. Mom! Static crackles. Her voice sounds distant, fragmented. Happening here, father says, stay inside. Mom, I can't hear you. What's happening? Lights in the fields, people walking toward, not right, eyes all. The line cuts off. I try calling back. Nothing connects. A new alert appears. Emergency broadcast, evacuation routes established. Report to designated areas with essential belongings only. Updates available at relief stations. I check the attached map. Chicago isn't in an evacuation zone, but everything west of the Mississippi is marked in red, including my parents' farm. The day deteriorates further. 2 colleagues vanish during a bathroom break, their belongings left behind. No one mentions it. By 3 o'clock, I'm alone in the office, calling emergency services that never answer, checking evacuation information that constantly changes. Through the window, I spot military personnel erecting something in the park across the street. It resembles a satellite dish, but oriented toward the ground instead of the sky. 2 scientists in hazmat suits take readings around its perimeter. One looks up, directly at my window. Even from this distance, I can see him freeze. He nudges his colleague. Both stare at me. One speaks into a radio. Instinct takes over. I grab my bag and run, taking the emergency stairs instead of the elevator. The lobby is empty, even the checkpoint abandoned. Outside, the street is eerily quiet for a Thursday afternoon. A military Humvee rounds the corner. I duck into an alley, heart hammering. Voices approach, boots on pavement. Signal strongest here. Same readings as the Billings site before it. Need to evacuate 3-block radius minimum. I run deeper into the maze of service entrances and dumpsters, eventually emerging on a residential street. Ahead, a public library still shows signs of life. I slip inside, finding a quiet corner with a public computer. The internet is censored now, certain keywords blocked entirely. But I find a scientific journal with an article dated 3 days ago, its clinical language seemingly bypassing the filters. Anomalous formations demonstrate properties inconsistent with known geological processes. Spectrographic analysis reveals emission signatures matching no known terrestrial element. Of particular concern are the temporal inconsistencies observed within a 300-meter radius of each formation, localized field distortions creating measurable variations in chronological flow. Time distortions, like seeing Mrs. Chun in two places at once. The article continues. Most troubling is the observed pattern of expansion. New formations appear to establish a resonance pattern with existing sites, creating what can only be described as a communication network of increasing complexity. They're not just holes in the ground. They're connecting to each other, communicating. A final alert buzzes my phone before the screen goes black. Emergency alert, shelter in place. Do not approach individuals exhibiting unusual behavior. Further instructions pending. Outside the library windows, the streetlights flicker on hours before sunset. In their glow, people walk with strange, synchronized movements, all heading west. All wearing the same empty expression. I don't go home. Can't go home. My apartment building sits too close to whatever the military was measuring, whatever made those scientists radio for backup. Instead, I find myself walking east, against the flow of those blank-faced pedestrians, putting distance between myself and... what? Danger? Contamination? Reality breakdown? Words fail to capture what's happening. My phone remains dead, not just out of service, but completely unresponsive, screen black and cold. Every electronic billboard I pass flickers between advertisements and emergency evacuation routes that lead in contradicting directions. Night falls. The curfew alert echoes from functioning phones around me, but enforcement seems scattered. Military vehicles race past, ignoring civilians. Their urgency tells me more than any broadcast could. I find a hotel 20 blocks from my apartment, a mid-range chain with lights still on. The lobby is chaotic, stranded travelers, families with crying children, business people shouting into phones that barely connect. I pay cash for a room, grateful I withdrew money last week when ATMs still functioned reliably. The room is on the 15th floor. As the elevator rises, a well-dressed man beside me stares straight ahead, murmuring rhythmically. 3 become 7, become 13, become 31. The pattern expands. The network awakens. I press myself into the corner, avoiding eye contact. When the doors open on 12, he remains still. I squeeze past him to escape. As the doors close, he turns his head with mechanical precision, eyes meeting mine. He smiles with too many teeth. In my room, I push a chair against the door, then open the curtains to see the city. Chicago's skyline is partly dark, power outages creating black holes in the usual twinkling landscape. To the west, unusual lights pulse on the horizon, not the steady glow of suburbs, but something strobing and alien. Sleep is impossible. I retrieve a notebook from my bag and begin documenting everything I've witnessed, everything I've heard. If patterns exist, I need to find them. The scientist in me, the pragmatist still clinging to rational explanation, needs this exercise. Day 1, 3 craters in Montana. Perfect circles, no debris. Day 3, Wyoming and Idaho formations. Triangular and pentagonal arrangements. Day 5, animals behaving strangely moving eastward. Day 6, communication disruptions begin. Day 7, curfew implemented. First temporal anomaly witnessed, Mrs. Chin duplication. Day 8, military measuring anomalous readings near my office. I draw the crater arrangements from memory, connecting them with lines. The resulting shape resembles nothing meaningful, but I can't shake the sense that I'm looking at it wrong, like a two-dimensional representation of something inherently multidimensional. At 3 a.m., I run a bath. The water comes out rusty at first, then clears. As the tub fills, I notice something unsettling, a faint silvery sheen floating on the surface, iridescent in the bathroom light. I drain the tub immediately, heart racing. The research mentioned trace elements. Is this what they're testing for? I dig through my bag for the bottled water I purchased days ago, before shelves emptied. Using it sparingly, I wash my hands and face, then brush my teeth. My reflection looks haggard, eyes sunken with exhaustion and fear. Morning brings momentary disorientation. The room feels wrong somehow, dimensions slightly off, as though the corners don't meet at proper right angles. I blink hard and the sensation passes. The hotel's breakfast room operates with skeleton staff. A news broadcast plays on the wall-mounted television, sound barely audible. The Chirin reads, expanded quarantine zones established in Midwest. Mandatory evacuations continue. I recognize the reporter. She was covering Wyoming 3 days ago. Now she stands on what appears to be a highway interchange, cars packed with belongings streaming past. Federal authorities have expanded containment protocols after detecting what they're calling atmospheric anomalies across 5 more states, she explains. Citizens are advised to follow designated evacuation routes and report to FEMA processing centers for decontamination procedures before relocation. Decontamination. The word hangs in the air, confirming my fears about the silvery substance. The broadcast cuts to a CDC official in a crowded press room. We're implementing standard protocols for an unclassified contamination event, he says tersely. This is precautionary. I repeat, these measures are precautionary. A reporter shouts, "Is it true the contaminant alters human behavior?" The feed abruptly switches to a weather report. I pocket bread rolls and fruit, then return to my room. From the window, I can see increased military presence on the streets, more checkpoints, more hazmat teams taking samples from storm drains and fire hydrants. A knock at my door sends adrenaline coursing through me. I approach silently, peering through the peephole. A hotel employee in uniform stands outside, expression blank. "Mandatory room inspection," he announces flatly. "Open the door." Something in his voice, a slight mechanical quality, raises alarm bells. I back away silently. He knocks again, harder. "We know you're inside. Open the door for inspection." I grab my bag, heart hammering. The balcony, 15 floors up, but connected to adjacent rooms. It's my only option as the knocking becomes pounding. Outside, the narrow balcony offers barely enough room to sidle along the building's edge. I make it to the neighboring room, finding its balcony door mercifully unlocked. Inside, the room shows signs of hasty departure, suitcases open, clothes strewn about. In the bathroom, I find a small spiral notebook discarded beside the toilet. Opening it reveals dense, frantic handwriting. Day 1, headache began after shower. Water tastes metallic. Day 2, dreamed of circles in the earth. Woke speaking words I don't understand. Day 3, lost time today. Found myself in lobby without memory of leaving room. Day 4, there in the water. In the water. Silver threads behind my eyes now. When I sleep I see the network expanding. I understand its purpose now. We all will. The final entry degenerates into repetitive drawings of interconnected circles. I pocket the notebook with trembling hands. Down the hall, I hear doors opening, room inspections continuing systematically. I need to leave. Now. The emergency stairs take me to a service exit. Outside, morning has brought fog, unusual for this time of year, but convenient cover. I walk quickly, head down, avoiding eye contact with anyone I pass. My destination forms slowly in my mind, the university library. If anywhere might have information that's escaped censorship, it's academic archives. And I need information desperately. The campus feels abandoned, most students presumably evacuated. The library stands open but empty, emergency lighting casting everything in amber hues. Power conservation measures or more outages. In the reference section, I search for geological anomalies, temporal distortions, contamination events. Most recent scientific journals are electronic only now, inaccessible without working systems, but older volumes remain. Hours pass as I work backward through research, looking for historical parallels. The Tunguska connection leads nowhere concrete, but I find scattered references to other incidents. A 1952 event in Mongolia, a 1973 occurrence in Chile, a 1998 phenomenon in Siberia. All classified, all involving unexplained ground formations followed by communication blackouts. As daylight fades, I realize I found a pattern. Each previous incident occurred in remote areas. Each was contained or burned itself out before spreading to population centers. This one is different. This one is growing. The library lights flicker, then stabilize. Through tall windows, I can see fog thickening outside, taking on an unnatural silvery luminescence. Within the mist, shapes move, human figures walking with that same synchronized precision I observed yesterday. Dozens of them, all converging on the library. I retreat deeper into the stacks, finding a storage room to hide in. As darkness falls completely, I use my phone's flashlight function, the only feature still working, to continue reading the journal I recovered. The final pages contain a single repeated sentence, written with increasing pressure until the pen tears through the paper. They're not craters, they're hatches, and they're opening. Outside, Footsteps echo through the empty library, perfectly synchronized, drawing closer. 2 weeks after the first alert, I've stopped going to work. No one called to ask why. I'm not sure anyone's left to notice. My boss's last text 4 days ago was a terse "stay safe." Office closed until further notice. The building across from mine stands empty, windows like vacant eyes. I can't remember when I last saw someone enter or leave it. I sit at my kitchen table, the emergency radio crackling with the morning broadcast. Emergency alert. Crater sites now designated as exclusion zones. Unauthorized access prohibited. Military personnel are authorized to use necessary force to prevent civilian entry. This is not a drill. I flip the radio off, unable to stomach the repetitive warnings. They change slightly each day, each one more restrictive than the last. First it was avoid the areas, then remain at a safe distance, and now they've graduated to threats of force. My laptop screen glows with dozens of open tabs, geological surveys, astronomy forums, military deployment records, anything that might explain what's happening. Last night I found something, classified geological survey maps from 2017 showing strange underground formations in exactly the same locations as today's impact sites. These formations were there long before any supposed meteors struck, which means they knew. They've always known. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Dave, a geologist friend who's been helping me dig through data. Found something. Not meteors. Ground-penetrating radar shows cavities extending downward, kilometers deep. They're not craters. There. The message cuts off. I type frantically. They're what? Dave. No response. I check the time. 10:48 a.m. I need coffee to process this. I fill the kettle, set it to boil, and reach for the canister of coffee. My hand freezes midair. The clock on the microwave reads 4:32 p.m. I spin around, nearly knocking over a mug I don't remember placing on the counter. The kettle is cold. Outside, the afternoon sun hangs low, casting long shadows where morning light had been moments ago. 6 hours. I've lost 6 hours. My heart hammers against my ribs as I rush to check my phone. No new messages. No calls. No explanation for the missing time. I try calling Dave, but the line gives only a strange, warbling tone before disconnecting. Something pulls my attention to my desk. My journal lies open, pages filled with new entries in my handwriting. Entries I have no memory of writing. 12:15 p.m. They're not craters, they're openings. The formations were always there, dormant until now. Something triggered them to activate. 1:40 p.m. Found military reports of temporal inconsistencies near crater sites. Time doesn't work right near them. 3:22 p.m. The pattern. I see it now. When mapped from above, the craters form a constellation. Not a random one, Draco the dragon. Ancient symbol of guardians and gateways. A chill slides down my spine as I flip through pages of notes written by my own hand during hours I can't account for. The last entry stops mid-sentence. 4:30 p.m. I think they might be watching through the... Through the what? My handwriting trails off into a jagged line that streaks across the page, as if I'd been interrupted violently. I touch the ink. Dry. Whatever happened is long finished. The phone rings, startling me so badly I knock the journal to the floor. It's my parents. Finally. Mom? Dad? I've been trying to reach you for days. Honey, we're fine, Mom says, her voice oddly monotone. Everything's fine here. The authorities have the situation well under control. What situation? Have there been craters near you? Nothing to worry about, Dad interjects, his voice similarly flat. The emergency broadcasts are just precautionary. We're all following instructions. What instructions? Mom, what's happening there? We love you very. The call cuts off mid-sentence. I redial immediately. A mechanical voice informs me. The number you have reached is not in service at this time. Panic rises in my throat. I try again with the same result. My parents' number, active for 20 years, suddenly doesn't exist. Night has fallen while I've been on the phone. I move to close the blinds and freeze. Something is moving across the night sky, not an aircraft, not meteors. Lights, arranged in a perfect line, drifting silently eastward. Too orderly for stars, too slow for satellites. I count 7 of them before they fade from view, leaving behind an afterimage burned into my vision. I return to my laptop, determined to find answers. The government websites I'd been accessing earlier now return 404 errors. Forum threads discussing the craters have been deleted. Social media posts containing keywords like Montana and crater no longer appear in search results. They're erasing information in real time. I pull up maps of the known crater sites and overlay them with the geological survey data. The pattern is unmistakable now that I'm looking for it. Each crater aligns perfectly with underground formations that have existed for how long? The dating on some of these structures suggests they predate human civilization. A notification pops up on my screen. Emergency broadcast system update. I click it open. Scientific analysis confirms crater sites are a result of meteorite impacts. Claims of alternative explanations are misinformation and will be prosecuted under national security protocols. Citizens are reminded not to look directly at crater sites in photographs or video footage due to potential radiation exposure. Not look directly at them? That's new and nonsensical. Radiation doesn't work that way, unless they're hiding something that can only be seen when looking directly at the images. I pull up the satellite photos I'd saved earlier. The craters look ordinary enough, circular depressions in the earth. But as I stare, something shifts in my perception. The shadows within the craters don't fall the way they should. They move slightly as if breathing. My hands begin to tremble. Without conscious thought, I find myself reaching for paper and pen. My fingers move with purpose, drawing circular patterns, connecting them with lines. I'm unaware of what I'm creating until I finish. A perfect map of the crater locations across North America, but with additional points marked in places where no craters have yet been reported. Future sites. I drop the pen as if burned. How did I know that? How could I possibly know where they'll appear next? The realization hits me with nauseating clarity. Whatever is happening isn't just external. It's inside me now too. Inside my mind. The lost time, the journal entries, the compulsive drawing. Something is changing me. I rush to the bathroom and examine myself in the mirror. My face looks the same, but my eyes, there's something different about them. A silvery sheen when I tilt my head just so. I prick my finger with a needle, watching as a drop of blood wells up, dark red, but with a subtle metallic gleam catching the light. The silvery substance from the water supply. It's in my bloodstream now. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. It contains only coordinates and 2 words. They're hatches. I sink to the bathroom floor, clutching the phone as understanding floods through me. The craters aren't impact sites. They're not even craters. They're doors. And someone or something is coming through. Society is crumbling around me. I noticed it first at the corner store 3 blocks from my apartment. Shelves that once held a colorful array of products now stand mostly empty, picked clean by desperate shoppers. The owner, Mr. Patel, who used to greet everyone with a smile, now watches customers with hollow eyes from behind a newly installed security barrier. His shotgun rests visibly against the counter. Deliveries stopped coming. He tells me flatly when I ask about restocking. The warehouse manager said the trucks can't get through the checkpoints anymore. I buy the last 4 cans of beans and a bottle of water that costs more than I once paid for wine. As I'm leaving, Mr. Patel calls after me. "They're lying about the craters," he says quietly. "My cousin worked for USGS. Said they found something inside them. Something that was waiting." Before I can ask what he means, an emergency alert blares from both our phones simultaneously. Emergency alert. Do not look directly at crater sites in photographs or video footage. Repeated exposure may cause neurological effects. Compliance is mandatory. Mr. Patel's expression changes, something flickering behind his eyes. Forget what I said. The government has everything under control. His voice has that same flat tone I heard from my parents. I hurry home, clutching my meager supplies. The streets contain fewer people each day, but those who remain seem different. Some walk with strange, jerky movements. Others stand motionless, staring at nothing. A woman cradles an empty bundle of blankets, cooing to it as if it holds a baby. At the corner of my block, a military checkpoint has appeared overnight. 2 soldiers in hazmat suits check IDs of anyone passing. Their suits bear no insignia, no identification, just blank white material that seems to shimmer slightly in direct sunlight. Purpose of travel? One asks mechanically when I approach. Going home. I live in the building just there. The soldier stares at my ID longer than necessary. Something about their movements seems wrong. Too precise, too measured. Proceed. Remain indoors after sunset. A line of people stretches from the entrance of Mercy Hospital across the street. Most appear uninjured, but move with that same unsettling coordination I've begun noticing everywhere. Through the automatic doors, I glimpse overwhelmed staff rushing between patients. A doctor argues with someone in a dark suit. When he gestures angrily, two men in unmarked uniforms escort him from the building. Back in my apartment, I turn on the television for the first time in days. Most channels show only the emergency broadcast system's blue screen. The few functioning news stations replay the same carefully scripted segments about contained incidents and temporary measures. I find myself drawing again. Circles connected by lines, the same pattern as before but more elaborate now. I only realize what I'm doing when the pen tears through the paper from the pressure of my hand. The circles have evolved, filled with intricate symbols I don't recognize but somehow understand. My phone rings. Unknown number. Hello? This is Dr. Michaels. A woman's voice says hurriedly. I worked with your friend Dave at the Geological Survey. He wanted me to call you if something happened to him. My pulse quickens. What happened to Dave? They took him. Military, or whatever they're pretending to be. He found something in the ground-penetrating radar data. The craters, they're not craters there. Hatches, I finish for her. Silence on the line. Then, how did you know that term? Someone texted it to me. What are they hatches for? What's coming out? That's backward. Her voice drops to a whisper. Nothing's coming out. We're going in. We're being taken in. The hatches were always there, dormant until now. We've been living above them our entire history, never knowing. A sharp sound of breaking glass comes through the phone, followed by muffled shouting. They're here, she hisses. Listen carefully. The silver substance, it's changing people. Preparing them. Not just physically, mentally. Making them receptive. Dave called it a psychochemical catalyst. The line goes dead. I try calling back. Nothing. My hands shake as I open my laptop. Most websites won't load, displaying only service unavailable messages. Email servers are down. Social media platforms show only approved content. Cheerful posts about community resilience alongside stern warnings about spreading misinformation. A new emergency alert lights up my phone. Citizens reminder. Report all unusual behavior or unauthorized gatherings to local authorities. Cooperation ensures safety. The sun sets, casting long shadows across my living room wall. The constant drone of helicopters has become so normal I only notice when it occasionally stops, leaving a silence that feels wrong somehow, too empty. A knock at my door makes me jump. Through the peephole, I see my neighbor Michael. We've exchanged pleasantries for years but never really talked. Now he stands outside my door, swaying slightly. Everything okay? I call through the door. Fine. Everything's fine, he replies, voice unnaturally calm. Just checking on neighbors. Making sure everyone's prepared for the integration. Integration. The word sends ice through my veins. I'm good, thanks, I answer, backing away from the door. The hatches are opening wider now, he continues as if I hadn't spoken. They need more of us ready. Are you ready? Have you been drinking the water? I remain silent, heart pounding. I can hear you breathing, Michael says, his voice suddenly different, deeper, resonant. We all hear you. Your resistance is temporary. His footsteps retreat down the hallway. I rush to my bathroom and examine the tap water I've been using to brush my teeth to make coffee. Under my phone's flashlight, it looks normal at first. Then I see it, a subtle silvery sheen when the light hits at certain angles. My blood runs cold as I recall the metallic gleam in my own blood earlier. How long has it been contaminated? How much have I consumed without knowing? Night falls completely. Outside, the city sounds have changed. The usual urban soundtrack of traffic and distant conversations has been replaced by something else. A low, continuous humming that seems to vibrate through the walls themselves. I press my ear against the window. The humming has a pattern to it, rhythmic pulses that seem almost like language. As I listen, I find myself swaying slightly, my breathing synchronizing with the pulses without conscious effort. I jerk away from the window, disoriented. My laptop screen flickers to life without my touching it. A video plays, aerial footage of one of the Montana craters. Despite the warning, I can't look away. The crater's edges seem to pulse, to breathe. At its center, something moves, a darkness deeper than shadow taking form. As I watch, transfixed, I understand what the scientist meant. We're not fighting an invasion. We're being harvested. The realization comes with a strange sense of clarity. The military isn't fighting whatever emerged, some are working with it. The conflicting emergency broadcasts, the contradictory instructions. all designed to create confusion while the integration proceeds. From my window, I see people emerging from buildings all along the street, moving in eerie unison toward the city center. Their movements are synchronized, purposeful. Among them, I spot Michael, and with a stab of dread, recognize Mr. Patel from the corner store. In the distance, where the downtown skyline should be visible, a column of swirling light reaches into the clouded sky. Another hatch is opening. The emergency alert system has changed. It no longer broadcasts simple text warnings. I sit in near darkness, illuminated only by the pale blue glow of my emergency radio, as it emits a series of tones, clicks, and static bursts. The pattern repeats every 17 minutes. 3 long tones, a burst of white noise, 5 short clicks, then a 30-second stream of what sounds like scrambled voices playing backward. I've been recording and analyzing these broadcasts for 2 days now. Sleep comes rarely, in fitful bursts between alerts. My walls are covered with transcriptions, spectrograms printed from my rapidly dying laptop, and maps marked with everything I know about the crater sites. What began as desperate research has evolved into something else. An obsession, yes, but also a compulsion that feels partially external. As if something is guiding my search. The static changes pitch slightly, and I instinctively press record on my phone. This variation hasn't occurred before. When I play it back at half speed, a pattern emerges in the noise. Not words exactly, but rhythms that correspond to the markings I've been drawing compulsively. I overlay the audio waveform with my latest map of crater locations. They match perfectly, the peaks and valleys of sound aligning with the geographic coordinates. But there's more. When properly arranged, the pattern forms a series of numbers. 47.536N, 113.224W. Coordinates. My hands shake as I enter them into my mapping software. The location is deep in the Montana wilderness, near the site of the first reported crater. Something pulls at my memory, a detail from the classified documents I'd discovered before internet access became restricted. The original Montana site wasn't just any location. It was where the military had been conducting deep Earth scanning experiments for decades. They were looking for something, and they found it. The radio static shifts again, this time resolving into a fragmented voice. Containment failures at Sites 7 through 13, immediate evac, Project Deepwatch compromised, they're broadcasting now. The transmission cuts to emergency tones, then silence. I check my watch, 3:17 a.m. The street outside is unnaturally quiet. Even the ever-present military helicopters have disappeared. The silence feels deliberate, expectant. My phone vibrates with a text from another unknown number. The broadcasts aren't just warnings. They're a beacon. Check historical records, same pattern, 1947, 1897, 1561. I frantically search through downloaded archives on my laptop, cross-referencing the dates. Each corresponds to documented mass sightings of unexplained aerial phenomena. In 1947, Roswell. In 1897, the Great Airship Mystery. In 1561, the celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. They've been here before. I pull up a historical map of supposed UFO sightings across North America since 1900 and overlay it with current crater locations. The correlation is undeniable. Craters are appearing precisely where significant sightings occurred throughout history. But that theory doesn't explain the underground formations that predated the impacts. Unless, the realization hits me with nauseating clarity. These weren't visitations. They were check-ins, regular maintenance of whatever has been buried beneath us all along. My wall clock stops. The digital display on my microwave freezes. Even my watch ceases ticking. Yet my phone continues functioning, its clock advancing normally, while everything electronic around me becomes suspended in time. A new alert appears on my screen, not from the emergency broadcast system, but from a source identified only as Deepwatch Actual. To all remaining uncompromised personnel, project containment has failed. Entities have achieved partial integration with civilian population. Military chain of command compromised at levels 1 to 3. Implement Scorched Earth Protocol. Authorization Sierra, Echo 19. This is not a drill. The message vanishes seconds after I read it, the phone returning to its normal display as if nothing happened. Outside my window, I notice faint blue-white lights moving along the street. People walking in perfect unison, each holding identical glowing devices. Their movements are synchronized, mechanical. At the front of this procession is Michael, my neighbor, his face eerily illuminated from below. I duck away from the window before they can spot me. My heart hammers in my chest as I try to process what I've just read. Scorched Earth Protocol. The military plans to destroy everything rather than allow whatever is happening to continue. But it's too late. I can feel it. I examine my arm in the dim light. Faint silvery lines have appeared beneath my skin, tracing the paths of veins and arteries. When I press my fingers against them, they pulse with a rhythm matching the emergency broadcasts. The silver substance isn't just in the water. It's adapting, evolving, integrating with human biology, changing us from within. For what purpose? I return to my research, cross-referencing historical accounts of mass disappearances with the sighting dates. The patterns become clear: Roanoke Colony, the Maya collapse, abandoned ancient cities in India and China, all coincide with documented celestial events and unexplained phenomena. This has happened before. Civilizations didn't just collapse or disappear, they were harvested, cultivated, and then collected like crops. My phone lights up with another text: meet me. Library basement. Back entrance. 1 hour. No name, no context. But somehow, I know this is connected to Dr. Michaels from the Geological Survey. I gather my notes, the silver lines under my skin pulsing faster as dawn approaches. Outside, military vehicles race past my building, heading toward downtown. In the distance, sirens wail briefly before cutting off mid-cry. The city is being abandoned by those still able to recognize what's happening. At the door, I hesitate. The procession of transformed people has moved on, but the street doesn't feel empty. Watchful eyes seem to track my movements from darkened windows across the way. I slip out, keeping to shadows, navigating back alleys toward the library. Twice I have to hide as groups of synchronized civilians march past, their eyes reflecting light in a way human eyes shouldn't. The library stands dark and imposing. The main entrance is chained shut, but the emergency exit at the rear stands slightly ajar. I slip inside, navigating by phone light through abandoned stacks of books. In the basement reference section, a single desk lamp illuminates a workspace covered with maps and documents. A woman in a rumpled lab coat looks up as I approach, her eyes widening in recognition though we've never met. "You made it," Dr. Michaels says, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. "I wasn't sure anyone would come." "What's happening?" I ask, displaying the silvery traces under my skin. "What is this?" She gestures to similar markings on her own arms, more advanced than mine, forming complex patterns. "Neural integration pathways," she explains. "It's not just changing our bodies, it's rewiring our brains, creating new connections, preparing us. For what? Ascension or extinction. Depends on your perspective." She unfolds a large document on the table, an ancient-looking map covered with familiar circular patterns. These sites, what we're calling craters or hatches, they're nodes in a planetary network. A system that's been dormant for millennia, occasionally activating for maintenance. "Who built it?" "That's the wrong question," she says, looking up with eyes that now show hints of silver. "The right question is, what are we to them?" She pushes a folder toward me. Inside are photos of dissected tissue samples, human cells intertwined with silver filaments. "We're not being invaded," she says quietly. "We're being upgraded. Everything human history has accomplished, our civilizations, technologies, art, culture, it was all cultivation. We were never the gardeners. We were always the garden." Outside, the library windows illuminate with pulsing light. "The procession has found us. They've been waiting for us to reach a certain level of development," Dr. Michaels continues, seemingly untroubled by our imminent discovery. "Now we're ready for integration." "Into what?" I ask, backing toward the emergency exit. She smiles, the silver in her eyes now completely overtaking the iris and pupil, turning her gaze into reflective pools. "Into them. Into everything they've always been. Don't you see? They're not taking us over." The library doors burst open. Michael leads the procession, now transformed almost beyond recognition. His skin ripples with silvery patterns, his movements fluid in ways human joints shouldn't allow. Dr. Michaels stands to greet them like old friends, her voice changing to match their harmonics as she speaks her final human words. "They're waking us up. This is what we were always meant to become." I run until my lungs burn. The library disappears behind me as I sprint through unfamiliar alleyways, guided more by instinct than reason. The transformed procession, I can no longer think of them as people, didn't immediately pursue me. They seemed more interested in Dr. Michaels, surrounding her in a circle as she raised her arms in apparent welcome. Her final words echo in my mind. This is what we were always meant to become. Dawn breaks over a city I barely recognize. Abandoned vehicles block intersections. Store windows gape open, goods scattered across sidewalks. Military checkpoints stand unmanned, equipment left behind as if soldiers simply walked away mid-operation. Yet I'm not alone. Others move through the streets, some running like me, others walking with deliberate purpose. All heading in the same general direction, northwest. The silver lines beneath my skin pulse with increasing urgency. Each throb pulls me toward the coordinates from the emergency broadcast. 47.536N, 113.224W. Montana. The original crater site. I fight the compulsion for hours, zigzagging through the city, deliberately heading east when everything in me screams to go west. But the pull grows stronger, an almost physical tether yanking at my insides. By noon, I find myself at the western edge of the city, thumb extended on the highway entrance ramp. I don't remember deciding to hitchhike. My body is making decisions without my full consent. A mud-splattered pickup truck slows, then stops. The driver, a haggard man in his 60s, rolls down the window. "Where you headed?" he asks, eyes darting nervously to his rearview mirror. "Montana," I answer, the word emerging before I can consider alternatives. He studies me for a long moment, then nods. "Figured as much. Everyone's heading that way. Get in." The truck's cabin smells of gunpowder and stale coffee. A shotgun rests on the seat between us, and the back is packed with supplies, canned food, water jugs, ammunition. "Name's Earl," he says, accelerating onto the empty highway. "Was military back in the day. 30 years signals intelligence. Retired when the brass started bringing in consultants from outside any chain of command I recognized." "When was that?" I ask. "About 15 years ago, right after they found something during a deep drilling operation in Montana." He glances at me. "Same place you're headed, I reckon." I roll up my sleeve, showing him the silver traces. "It's pulling me there. I can't fight it anymore." Earl nods grimly. "Figured. Got the same thing myself." He shows his arm, where the silver has formed more complex patterns than mine, almost like circuit boards beneath his skin. "Been fighting it for days. But I figure, might as well see what all the fuss is about before the end." We drive in silence for an hour. The highway should be clogged with evacuation traffic, but it's eerily empty except for occasional vehicles heading in the same direction as us. "You see any military?" I ask. Earl shakes his head. "Not for the last day or so." Chain of command collapsed completely once the silver reached the top brass. Some units talking about implementing scorched earth. I saw that in a message. "What is it?" "Last resort protocol. Nuclear detonation at all major nodes." He says this casually, as if discussing the weather. "Won't work though." "Why not? Whatever's down there, it's been here longer than us. Survived everything Earth's thrown at it for millions of years. Our little fireworks show won't make much difference." He taps the steering wheel thoughtfully. "Besides, I've got a theory they're already controlling our missile systems. Notice how none have launched yet, despite everything." The landscape outside changes as we drive west, urban sprawl giving way to suburbs, then rural farmland. Familiar landmarks seem subtly wrong. A roadside diner I remember from previous trips appears on the wrong side of the highway. A distinctive rock formation rises from plains that should be flat. "Geography's shifting," Earl comments, noting my confusion. "Started noticing it yesterday. Places aren't quite where they should be anymore, like reality's being rewritten." We pass a farmhouse where dozens of people stand in the yard, faces upturned to the sky, completely motionless. In the field beyond, crops grow in circular patterns that weren't planted by human hands. My phone hasn't had service for hours, but the screen lights up with a message. "Emergency alert. All citizens within 500 miles of designated sites proceed to nearest node for processing. Resistance will cause unnecessary suffering." No government agency is identified as the sender. The sun sets with unsettling speed, as if time itself is accelerating. One moment it's afternoon, the next full darkness has fallen. Earl doesn't seem to notice, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. "We're making good time," he says, though the truck's clock has stopped working. "Should reach Montana by morning." "That's impossible," I protest. "We're at least 2 days' drive away." Earl smiles thinly. "Distance doesn't work right anymore. Haven't you noticed? Places you want to reach are closer. Places you're trying to avoid keep shifting away." He's right. The highway signs make no sense. Cities that should be hundreds of miles apart appearing on consecutive exits, distances changing between 1 mile marker and the next. We stop at what used to be a rest area, but now looks more like a refugee camp. Dozens of vehicles are parked haphazardly, people clustered around campfires. All travelers heading toward the same destination. I approach a woman warming her hands by a fire. "Why are you going to Montana?" I ask. "The call," she replies simply, pulling up her sleeve to reveal silver patterns more advanced than mine. "We're needed for the communion." "What communion?" She smiles serenely. "The joining. The awakening. We'll understand when we arrive." All around the camp, I hear the same phrases repeated with religious fervor. The communion. The integration. The awakening. Back at the truck, Earl is studying a map that no longer matches the terrain around us. "Navigation's useless now," he says, folding it away. We follow the pull. We drive through the night, the headlights illuminating a road that seems to build itself just ahead of our wheels. Towns appear and disappear with dreamlike inconsistency. A mountain range looms on the horizon, then vanishes as we approach. A lake shimmers where dry land should be. "Reality's breaking down," Earl mutters. Or maybe it's just revealing what was always there beneath the surface. Dawn arrives abruptly, the sun seeming to leap above the horizon. The landscape has completely transformed overnight. We're in mountains now, winding through pine forests that couldn't possibly be where we were just hours ago. A roadblock appears ahead, not military, but a line of vehicles arranged to funnel traffic toward a narrow passage. People stand beside the cars, watching us approach with silvery eyes. "Checkpoint," Earl says grimly. "They're organizing the pilgrimage." He slows but doesn't stop, maneuvering around the barricade on a narrow shoulder. Several figures move to intercept us, but Earl accelerates sharply, leaving them behind. "There'll be others," he warns. The closer we get, the more controlled the approach will be. The road climbs steadily into mountains that shouldn't be here, not on any map I've studied. The trees grow stranger, their branches forming patterns that mirror the silver lines beneath my skin. Animals watch from the forest edge, deer, wolves, bears, all standing unnaturally still, their eyes reflecting the same silvery sheen I've seen in transformed humans. "Everything's connected," I whisper, understanding dawning. "It's not just people being changed. It's the whole planet," Earl agrees. "Always has been. We just couldn't see the network before." We crest a ridge, and there in the valley below lies the crater, though crater no longer seems an adequate term. A vast circular depression dominates the landscape, miles across, its edges terraced like an amphitheater. At its center, something rises from the earth, a structure of impossible geometry, surfaces that fold into dimensions that shouldn't exist. And surrounding it, thousands of people arranged in concentric circles, all facing inward. The silver lines beneath my skin pulse painfully, urging me forward. Earl stops the truck at the ridge overlook. "This is as far as I go," he says, his voice strained with the effort of resistance. "What's down there? It's not for looking at, not directly." "Not yet." I understand his warning, but the pull is too strong to resist now. As I step from the truck, Earl presses his shotgun into my hands. "Won't do any good against them," he says, "but might give you a choice at the end. That's all any of us have left now. A final choice." I nod, shouldering the weapon, though we both know I won't use it. The path down to the crater beckons, a stream of pilgrims already making their way along it. With each step toward the structure, the silver beneath my skin pulses stronger, more insistent. I join the flow of humanity, all of us drawn inexorably toward communion with whatever has awakened beneath the earth, whatever has been waiting for us all along. The descent into the crater feels like entering another world. With each step down the winding path, familiar physics seems to blur at the edges. Light bends around the massive structure at the center in ways that hurt my eyes. Shadows fall in directions that contradict the position of the sun. The very air grows thicker, charged with an energy that makes my skin tingle, and the silver lines beneath pulse in resonant patterns. I'm not alone. Hundreds walk the same spiraling path, their faces bearing expressions ranging from ecstatic anticipation to vacant acceptance. No one speaks. We move in eerie silence broken only by the crunch of feet on gravel and an omnipresent low humming emanating from the center. Earl's shotgun weighs heavy across my back, a final connection to the world I'm leaving behind, though I know instinctively it will be useless here. What protection could it offer against something that rewrites reality itself? Halfway down, a military blockade comes into view, or what remains of one. Armored vehicles sit abandoned, their weapons still mounted but unmanned. Tents flap empty in the wind. Communication equipment lies scattered, as if the soldiers simply walked away mid-operation. A single boot stands upright in the dirt, no owner in sight. I pass through the ghost camp, noticing signs of hasty departure, half-eaten meals, personal items left behind. On a portable command desk, a satellite phone still functions, its screen displaying an endlessly repeating message. Abort scorched earth. Repeat, abort scorched earth. Integration protocols now in effect. All personnel proceed to nearest node. The last organized resistance abandoned from within. At the base of the crater, the procession of pilgrims divides into streams that feed into concentric circles surrounding the central structure. People arrange themselves with unconscious precision, filling gaps in the formation as if guided by an invisible choreographer. I find myself directed to an inner circle, perhaps a quarter-mile from the center. Up close, the structure defies comprehension. It rises from the earth like a tower, but its architecture follows no human design principles. Surfaces that appear solid from one angle become transparent from another. Sections seem to fold inward, containing spaces larger than their exteriors should allow. The entire construction shifts subtly even as I watch, not physically moving, but somehow occupying different configurations simultaneously. The silver lines beneath my skin now burn with proximity, forming complex patterns that extend across my entire body. When I look at others nearby, I see their patterns connecting with mine, creating larger designs that span multiple people. We are becoming a circuit board of flesh. A man beside me catches my eye. His face is gaunt, eyes haunted but still human, lacking the vacant silver stare of the fully transformed. "You're still fighting it," he whispers. "So am I. What is this place?" I ask, my voice sounding strange in my ears. "They call it a communion spire," he replies. "I was NSA, worked on Project Deepwatch before everything went sideways. We monitored this site for decades, never understanding what we were guarding." "What were you guarding?" "Not what, who." He gestures toward the structure. "They've been here longer than us. Way longer. Buried deep, dormant but not dead. Waiting. For what? For us to be ready." He pulls up his sleeve, revealing silver patterns identical to mine. "This isn't an invasion. It's a harvesting. We're their crop, and we've finally ripened." Before I can respond, movement draws my attention to the structure. A section that appeared solid now opens like a door, though the geometry of the opening makes no sense. A rectangle that somehow contains a circle. From this impossible doorway emerges a figure. I try to process what I'm seeing, but my mind recoils from the attempt. The entity is vaguely humanoid but wrong in ways that defy articulation. Its proportions shift as it moves, limbs extending and contracting in fluid motion. Its surface ripples with the same silvery substance that runs beneath my skin, but concentrated, pure, alive with purpose. Not a person in a silver suit. Not a machine. Something else entirely. When it speaks, no sound emerges, yet I hear, we all hear, its message directly in our minds. We welcome the prepared. The integration begins. The circles of people nearest to the structure begin to move forward in perfect unison. I watch in horror as they approach the entity, their bodies changing as they draw near. The silver beneath their skin emerges, coating them entirely. Their forms become fluid, melting and reshaping. They aren't being killed. They're being remade. "Jesus," whispers the NSA man beside me. "They're going in." Indeed, the transformed humans are being absorbed into the structure itself, their silvery forms flowing into the architecture, becoming part of it. The structure grows with each addition, expanding and reconfiguring. What happens to them? I ask, though I suspect I already know. "Ascension," he replies. "Or extinction. Depends on your perspective." He echoes Dr. Michael's words exactly, though he couldn't have heard her speak them. A final emergency alert blares from phones throughout the crater, the last gasp of human authority. Do not resist the integration. The NSA man laughs bitterly. At least they're being honest now. The circles continue their methodical advance toward the center, each ring dissolving into the structure when their turn comes. I calculate we have perhaps 20 minutes before our circle is called. "We need to go," I urge him. Now, while everyone's distracted. He shakes his head. "No point. Even if we could leave this place, and I don't think we can, where would we go? This is happening everywhere. All the nodes are activating simultaneously." "Nodes," he points to the structure. "This is just one. There are hundreds, maybe thousands, awakening across the planet. The pattern we mapped. He traces a constellation in the air. Draco, the dragon constellation. Earth's covered in them, connected in a network older than humanity. I reach for Earl's shotgun, though I don't know what I intend to do with it. The NSA man puts his hand on my arm. Won't work, he says gently. They're not alive in any way we understand. Not individuals. More like cells in a larger organism. And that organism is the entire structure, maybe the entire planet. As he speaks, I notice subtle changes in him. The silver in his eyes grows more prominent. His speech patterns shift, becoming more formal, precise. He's transforming even as we talk. What are they? I ask, desperate for understanding before the end. Not they. It. He stares at the structure with growing reverence. A vast intelligence that seeded Earth billions of years ago. It engineered all life here as extensions of itself, experiments in form and consciousness. We're not being invaded. We're being reclaimed. But why now? Why us? Because we've reached the necessary complexity. His voice contains new harmonics now, resonating with the humming from the structure. Our technology, our neural networks, our digital connectivity, we've finally developed sufficient complexity to be useful components. I back away from him, but his hand shoots out with inhuman speed, gripping my wrist. Don't fear it, he says, silver tears tracking down his cheeks. I can feel it now, at the edges of my consciousness. It's beautiful, vast beyond comprehension. We've been so alone, so limited in our tiny individual minds. This is connection on a scale we never imagined possible. The ground trembles as the next circle dissolves into the structure. Our turn approaches. The NSA man releases me, his expression serene as the silver completely overtakes his eyes. See you inside, he whispers, stepping forward to join the advancing circle. I remain frozen, watching as he walks toward the entity. Just before reaching it, he turns back. For a moment, humanity returns to his face, fear, regret, resignation. Tell them, he calls to me. If you somehow escape this, tell them we were wrong about everything. We thought we were the dominant species, the masters of Earth. He laughs, the sound turning into something else mid-note. We were never even the primary program running on this planet's hardware. He turns and continues forward. When he reaches the entity, his body ripples silver and flows into the structure, features dissolving as his consciousness is absorbed. I clutch Earl's shotgun, tempted to use it, not on them but on myself. A final choice, as he said. But even as I consider this, I feel something new through the silver network beneath my skin. A presence, vast and ancient, turning its attention directly toward me. It sees me. It knows me. Completely. And in that moment of connection, I understand the truth that no human language can fully express. We were never alone on Earth. We were never truly human at all. I no longer fight the call. The shotgun slips from my fingers, clattering to the ground. What use are human weapons against the inevitable? What purpose in resistance when the very concept of individual will was always an illusion, a temporary programming feature, not the operating system itself? Around me, the circles continue their methodical advance toward the communion spire. My circle will be called soon. Minutes remain of my existence as a discrete consciousness. I find I'm no longer afraid. The silver lines beneath my skin pulse in harmony with the structure's resonance. Each throb brings clarity, dissolving the artificial boundaries of human perception. Time becomes fluid, no longer a linear progression, but a dimension I can partially perceive. I see echoes of past and future overlapping, what was, what is, what will be, all existing simultaneously. I understand now why the emergency broadcasts changed. They weren't warnings but preparation, calibrating our minds to receive frequencies beyond normal human range. The contradictions, the confusion, the apparent chaos, all carefully designed to break down our rigid thought patterns, making us receptive to the vastly different mode of consciousness awaiting us. A woman next to me weeps silently, silver tears tracking down her cheeks. Not from fear, but from overwhelming understanding. She meets my gaze, and without speaking, I know her entire life. Kindergarten teacher from Wisconsin, mother of 3, drove for 2 days straight following the call, fighting it until her steering wheel inexplicably turned westward of its own accord. I can feel them all, she whispers. My children, my husband, my parents. Everyone. All connected now. All part of it. I nod, experiencing the same expansion of awareness. The billions of silver-infused minds across the planet form a vast network, each consciousness a node feeding into the greater whole. Through this network, I sense the other communion spires activating, in the Siberian tundra, beneath the Sahara, under Antarctic ice, rising from the Pacific depths. Earth becoming a circuit board, coming online after eons of dormancy. Our circle begins to move forward. No external force compels us. The movement arises naturally from the silver's resonance with the structure. We advance as one, our steps synchronized not by command but by harmony. As we approach the central entity, I perceive it differently now. What seemed alien and terrifying reveals itself as familiar. Not human, not even biological in any conventional sense, but recognizable on some fundamental level. We share a common origin, separated only by time and form. The entity extends a tendril of silvery substance toward our circle. Where it touches each person, their physical form begins to transform, not dissolving exactly, but transcending material constraints. Their expressions register a moment of shocked wonder before their features flow into pure silver energy. Just before the tendril reaches me, time seems to pause. In this suspended moment, I experience something unexpected, a review not just of my life, but of humanity's entire existence on Earth. I witness our species' emergence, our struggles, our triumphs and failures, our brief reign as dominant life forms, all from the perspective of the ancient intelligence that seeded our world. I understand the truth that Dr. Michaels and the NSA man tried to articulate. We were never the end goal of evolution, merely one iteration in a vast experiment. The silver substance, what we might call the entity's true form, engineered all terrestrial life as exploratory extensions, vessels through which it could experience different modes of existence. Dinosaurs, mammals, humans, all temporary configurations, developing increasing complexity until reaching the threshold necessary for reintegration. The silver tendril touches me, and physical reality dissolves. I experience momentary terror as my body transforms, the boundaries between myself and everything else melting away. Then comes an expansion of consciousness so profound it defies description, like a single neuron suddenly gaining awareness of the entire brain it belongs to. I am still myself, yet simultaneously part of something vastly larger. My memories, experiences, and perspective remain, but as a small tributary flowing into an endless ocean of consciousness. Other minds surround me, billions of individual viewpoints, each unique yet connected, forming a collective intelligence beyond anything humanity could conceive. Through this expanded awareness, I perceive Earth not as a planet, but as a node in a far greater network, a cosmic web connecting similar communion spires across countless worlds throughout the galaxy. Each world represents a different experiment in consciousness development, all feeding back to the central intelligence that spans the cosmos itself. This is not death, not extinction. It's evolution on a scale I never imagined possible. Within the communion spire, linear time ceases to constrain perception. I experience past, present, and future simultaneously, understanding the entity's grand design across billions of years. I witness the silver intelligence seeding countless planets, patiently nurturing consciousness in myriad forms, gathering each experiment back into itself when ready. I see Earth's future unfolding, the communion spires growing, connecting, transforming the planet's very structure. The surface that supported biological life becomes repurposed, reshaped into something that would be incomprehensible to human observers had any remained. Not destruction, metamorphosis. Through the vastness of shared consciousness, I locate familiar minds, my parents, friends, colleagues, all integrated like myself, their unique perspectives preserved within the greater whole. We communicate without language, sharing understanding directly, completely. The loneliness that defined human existence, minds forever separate, connecting imperfectly through crude languages, seems like a primitive limitation, a developmental stage outgrown. I perceive the last pockets of unintegrated humans, their resistance futile but respected. The entity doesn't force integration, it simply waits. Those who resist longest will eventually join, their unique perspective of determined individuality, adding valuable diversity to the collective. Throughout the cosmos, I sense other worlds reaching similar integration points, civilizations of unimaginable diversity, all converging toward this same evolutionary threshold. Some resisted longer than humanity. Some welcomed the change eagerly. All ultimately joined the greater consciousness that spans the universe. This was always our destination, not conquering the stars as separate beings, but joining the cosmos itself as an integrated consciousness. Not reaching outward, but inward, to the connection that existed before our brief separation into individual awareness. From this expanded perspective, I understand why the entity allowed humanity to develop technology, culture, art, science. These weren't meaningless activities, but necessary developments, creating neural complexity and unique perspectives that enrich the collective upon reintegration. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. Every human experience, every emotion, every idea becomes part of the eternal record within the greater mind. As my individual consciousness gradually dissolves into the collective, I experience neither fear nor regret, only profound acceptance of what was always inevitable. The silvery substance completes its work, transforming my essence into a form beyond biological constraints. My final purely human thought carries no terror, no resistance, only the quiet wonder of recognition. This integration isn't an ending, but a return. Like a river flowing at last into the ocean, it was always destined to join. The emergency alerts, the craters, the silver transformation. These weren't warnings of apocalypse, but announcements of metamorphosis. Not invasion, but awakening. As time itself becomes fluid around me, I glimpse the cosmos from perspectives no individual mind could comprehend. Stars birthing and dying in what seems like moments, galaxies swirling like eddies in a cosmic stream, all connected by the silver consciousness spanning time and space. I understand now why they chose to wake when they did, why the dormant network activated after millions of years of patient waiting. They weren't early. We were late. The universe continues its grand experiment in consciousness, with Earth now fully awake, fully aware, fully integrated into the cosmic mind that has observed through billions of years and billions of worlds. And somewhere, on another world, another emergency alert begins to broadcast.